heavy dust of the late afternoon settled like a silent shroud over the small village at the edge of Ouagadougou. The sun hung low, bleeding amber and gold into the cracked earth, as a brittle wind whispered mournful secrets through the withered trees. It was the kind of evening where even the cicadas seemed to pause, holding their breath in the suffocating heat and silence. Ibraim Traoré stood at the edge of the market square, watching. His gaze followed a frail woman, weaving through the narrow alleyways, clutching a faded sack of roots she had just purchased. Her clothes hung like empty shadows on her thin frame. Her bare feet scuffed the dirt with slow, heavy steps. She carried a weight far greater than the sack, one that the world around her seemed determined to ignore. She was a ghost to most, invisible, wandering a landscape that cared little for hunger or pain. Ibrahim's heart tightened. Something about her hollow eyes, the way her shoulders sagged beneath an invisible burden, stirred a restless ache inside him. Without a second thought, he began to follow her from a distance, careful not to be seen, moving silently between the shadows. He did not know then what he would find when she reached the edge of the village. Something so heartbreaking it would shatter his understanding of suffering and ignite a fire inside his soul. The Woman and the Wasteland. Her name was Amina. She was barely 29 but looked decades older, her skin cracked and sunburnt, her hands trembling as she carried the meager food that would feed herself and her children, if it lasted until dawn. The village itself was a mosaic of hardship. Mud huts, with roofs patched by tin sheets, clotheslines heavy with rags fluttering, like flags of surrender, children playing barefoot in the dirt, eyes bright but empty in their innocence. Amina's footsteps grew slower as she neared a cluster of huts at the village's edge. Her house was little more than a shack, half collapsed, barely holding itself upright against the endless winds of neglect and despair. The wooden door hung crooked on rusted hinges, the window's empty sockets staring blankly into the world. Ibrahim's chest tightened at the sight. He saw the worn shoes discarded at the doorstep, the cracks in the walls where weeds had taken root, and then the cries. A faint, fractured sound carried in the dry air, a child's sob. Soft, desperate, almost swallowed by the evening's silence. Ibrahim's feet moved of their own accord. He approached the house cautiously, each step heavy with dread. Peering inside, he saw a small figure curled on the dirt floor, clutching a thin blanket far too small for her. The child was no more than 5, her ribs visible beneath skin so pale it seemed translucent. Beside her sat Amina, her face a mask of exhaustion and despair, tears streaming silently down her cheeks as she whispered lullabies to the girl. The scene was raw, intimate, a slice of life ripped open to reveal the brutal truth of hunger and hopelessness. The weight of a broken world. Ibrahim stepped back, his throat tight with unshed tears. He thought of the promises made by leaders and governments, words that floated like smoke rings, never settling on the ground where people like Amina lived and suffered. He thought of the gold mines in the north, the foreign aid that never seemed to reach these forgotten corners. The endless news cycles that showed flashing images of crisis and famine, but failed to translate grief into action. His mind raced. How had it come to this? How had so many been abandoned to live this way, and yet despite it all, Amina's strength was undeniable. Though her body seemed broken, her spirit fought on in whispers and small acts of care. A caress on the child's forehead, a shaky breath, a promise spoken into the night air. Ibrahim knew he had to do something. But what? How could one man make a difference in a world so vast, so indifferent? The unexpected helper days passed, but Ibrahim could not forget the woman and her child. He returned often, bringing food and clean water, sitting in silence while Amina shared pieces of her story. She spoke of lost husbands, of droughts that withered crops, of villages torn apart by violence and neglect. She spoke of dreams faded, like the paint peeling from the walls around them. But amidst the sorrow there was a flicker of hope, a determination to survive for her children, to rise above the devastation. Then, one evening, as Ibrahim handed Amina a loaf of bread, a shadow, moved at the edge of the village. A small boy appeared, no older than 10, barefoot and ragged, clutching a battered soccer ball. He looked up at Ibrahim with wary eyes. "Can I help?" the boy asked quietly. Ibrahim nodded, sensing a kindred spirit, a child hardened by hardship, but willing to fight. Together they began to build a fragile network of support. The boy, named Musa, became a bridge between Ibrahim and the village, guiding him through the tangled web of families struggling to survive. The midpoint twist one afternoon, Musa took Ibrahim to a hidden grove just outside the village, a place where wild herbs and edible plants grew, untouched by the scorched earth. "There's more here than you think," Musa said, eyes shining with determination. "If we learn to use what's around us, maybe we can survive." It was then Ibrahim realized the true depth of the village's resilience and the power of knowledge, long ignored. But there was a darker truth beneath the surface. Musa revealed that a local militia had recently seized control of the nearest water source, cutting off access to the community and deepening their suffering. The heartbreak was no longer just nature's cruelty, but human greed and violence. The climax, a fight for life. Ibrahim's resolve hardened. He called upon friends, old comrades, and even strangers touched by the village's plight. Together they planned a bold move, to reclaim the water source and restore hope. The night before the operation, Ibrahim sat beside Amina and her children, their faces illuminated by the flickering light of a dying fire. "You're not broken," he told Amina softly. "You're becoming stronger than the storms that try to break you." Tears spilled freely, but so did hope. The dawn broke with a chorus of birds and the pounding of determined feet. The village stood united as they confronted the militia, their voices rising in defiance, their hearts fueled by desperation and love. Against all odds, they succeeded. Water flowed again. Life returned. The resolution: seeds of tomorrow. Weeks later, the village blossomed with small victories. A community garden, children laughing in the sunlight, women weaving baskets under the open sky. Amina smiled, lighter now, her children thriving. Ibrahim watched, his heart full. The woman who had once been invisible now stood at the village's center, a symbol of endurance, courage, and transformation. And in that quiet moment as the sun rose over the land, Ibrahim knew this was only the beginning. Call to action. If this story touched your heart, consider subscribing for more inspiring tales of hope, healing, and unexpected kindness. Hit the like button and share this with someone who needs it today.